Hello bookworms! Today I'm here with my September wrap-up novels edition because I'm splitting this up into two videos. So this is going to be all of the novels that I read for the month of September, and then there is another video that is all of the graphic novels and manga that I read in the month of September because I read a lot of both and I needed to split it up somehow. So anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into what I read this month. This month was Diversathon, and I think that took place like the second week, and I ended up doing really good and reading a lot of diverse books this month. Like even before Diversathon started, I was already doing it, so that was super great. But yeah, so the first book that I read this month was Burn for Burn by Jenny Han and Siobhan Vivian. This book follows three girls who are all hell-bent on getting revenge against people that have done wrong against them. So it was really, really cool. I liked the concept, and I really, really liked Lilia, who was the Asian main character. She was like by far my favorite character in this whole series, and I really, really loved it. I flew through this book so quickly, like I couldn't believe it. I just love everything that Jenny Han writes, so this was really good. And I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. Then I was so interested in what was going on that I immediately picked up the second book, which is Fire with Fire, also by Jenny Han and Siobhan Vivian. And the story continued here. I thought that this book was really good. It was much longer than the first book. It's also much longer than the last book. But the way that the story progressed was really interesting. Again, I still just loved Lilia. I don't want to say anything about what happens because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I enjoyed this one as well, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And then of course at that point I was like, you know what, I already read the first book and I already read the second book, so I may as well just continue and pick up the third book right away, which is something that I never do. Like I never really binge series, I always take breaks between books, but I really liked Lilia and I just was really invested in her story. So I immediately picked up Ashes to Ashes and I read that, also by Jenny Han and Siobhan Vivian. Again, don't want to spoil anything, but I had mixed feelings on the way that this trilogy ended. I thought it took a very strange turn that I was not expecting. I still liked it and I felt like the very ending was realistic, but I also didn't love it. And yeah, it was just weird. Like it just took a very weird turn. So I ended up giving the third book 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read These Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. This book follows a girl who lives in this town on an island where once a year there are these races called the Scorpio Races that take place, and each person participating has to train a water horse to run this race. They're like very quick, but they're also very deadly, and there are constantly fatalities on the island. It is like a super dangerous thing to engage in, but she decides to do it because she finds out that her brother is going to be leaving the island and she's very upset about it, and her family is having some financial issues, so she figures that winning this race would be a good way to win the money and be able to keep her house and everything like that. So it was really interesting. Maggie Stiefvater's writing is just beautiful. I definitely liked her Raven Boys series a lot more, but I still did really enjoy this one. It had like a very atmospheric feel. It was very fall, like they're constantly describing the cold air and like being near the ocean and stuff, and everyone needing coats. So definitely got me like in the fall mood, and I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Far From You by Tess Sharp. This book was amazing. Everyone has said how good it is, and I just never picked it up until now, and I really don't know why I waited, but it's like a thriller YA story, and it follows a girl whose best friend dies, and everyone blames her for what happened because the two of them were out supposedly buying drugs, but the girl, for the girl who survived, but she insists that she has been clean for like 6 months now, and she says that, you know, she didn't have any drugs in her system, she doesn't understand why people are blaming her for this, and she doesn't think that they were there for that reason. So she's kind of taking it upon herself to go and figure out exactly what happened to her best friend. And it's just so good. It's so fascinating. The main character is bisexual, and I never read a book about a bisexual character before. So that was also really interesting. I loved just like hearing her take on the relationship and just the way that she feels in general. It was so good. Like I could not put this book down. I was so completely engaged and so excited by everything that was happening. Like there was never a lull in the story. I really don't know why I waited this long to pick it up, but I loved it, and I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Great by Sarah Benincasa, and this is a lesbian retelling of The Great Gatsby. It takes place in the Hamptons on Long Island during a summer, and it follows a very rich group of friends who all spend their summers out in the Hamptons together. They've been going there for years, and they all have these relationships established. And then there is this really cool fashion blogger that everyone is obsessed with, and her name is Jacinta, and she is the Gatsby of the summer. And it's just really cool to see the modern day interpretation. I felt like everything was very, very closely related to The Great Gatsby, to the point where like characters that were supposed to be characters in the other book, even their names all began with the same like first letter. So it was very obvious to tell like who is who in the story. But I really enjoyed it. I really like The Great Gatsby. So if you like that book, you will like this book. But if you don't like it, then you definitely won't like this, because it was literally like exactly a retelling. But it was really good and I enjoyed it. And if you know, Great Gatsby is sad, so it was sad, but it was still good. So it's also really short, which I wasn't expecting. It was only like 250 something pages, but I really enjoyed it. And I read this as part of Diversathon also, and I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I don't read a lot of 4 out of 5 stars books this month. And then finally, I wanted to read something more Halloween-esque, so I decided to pick up Vampire Academy Volume 3, Shadow Kiss. This is by Rochelle Mead, and it follows Lissa and Rose. Rose is basically Lissa's guardian, and it's just, it takes place at a school, so that's also something that I love. And I don't want to spoil anything that happens in the rest of the series, so I'm not going to give like a full synopsis of what's going on in here, but it had all the same elements from the first and second books that I really liked, and I actually found myself enjoying this third one a lot more than the first and second, so I'm definitely going to continue with the series. Hopefully I will finish it before the end of the year. That would be really great, but we'll see. I really liked it. I'm glad that I ended up reading this one, so I gave this one also 4 out of 5 stars. And those are all of the novels that I read this month. Let me know what you've been reading, and also don't forget to check out my video of all of the comics and manga that I read for the month. So that's all that I have for now. I'll see you guys soon with a new video. Bye!